You know, there's a lot of charts going on right now in fantasy football. They're colorful, they're easy to read, they're nice. You know, this is the day and age where everybody's showing you all this data. But be careful sometimes when you spot a chart that doesn't tell you exactly what the hell is going on. Take this one, for example, average total minutes of playing time. Here's a spotlight player that we're looking at, Chris Conley from the Kansas City Chiefs. There's Larry Fitzgerald on the right in red, Antonio Brown green, Cobb's orange. Chris Conley's the yellow one. He's 24 years of age at the bottom. The minutes are on the left, and Stephon Diggs is the blue. But how are they deriving this? And what the hell does it mean? Who cares about playing time, right? I mean, isn't that just experience? Maybe it's a confidence factor, but you know, if they're doing the math here, 168 hours a week, 677 hours a month, 8760 hours a year, they're deducing the fact that, you know, a game's only played about 11 minutes out of the 3 hours. The juicy stuff, right? The actual playing time, not the cheerleaders, the timeouts, the replays, and everything else. When you're doing the math and all this practice, they're getting an average time of like 4 minutes of a player being on the field. So obviously Larry Fitzgerald's played a ton of games. That's why he has the most experience in this chart. With the NFL practice being 4 hours a day, you know, 4 days a week. You know, they get like, what, 2.7 months off? You know, here's the thing with some of these graphs. You got to be real careful, okay? Because what does it all mean, okay? What does it mean when we're doing averages on things like this? This chart is flawed. It's great. I mean, it's kind of interesting to me to look at a chart like this and say, that is interesting. You know, the breakout year is year 3. And what if Chris Conley gets the experience or the confidence with playing time minutes, which on this chart, he's right around 144 minutes, right? Which is like 2 hours of NFL time. That's if the averages worked out. What I'm trying to say is be leery of charts like this that give you these averages. And then what the hell does it mean? You have to deduce. I mean, what is this chart trying to tell me? Really nothing. I mean, it's kind of a bogus chart. I mean, it could be interesting. Everybody wants to predict the future. What I'm trying to say here, and the point is, stop trying to predict the future. You know, just look at facts and data that's relevant that you can actually measure in metrics, because everyone wants to try to predict on fantasy football the third-year breakout. Okay, that's the theory that's been going on for a long time. What I'm here to say is I'm more interested in, is the wide receiver 5'8" or 6'2"? You know, how is his combine gauntlet score where he catches the football and that barrage of footballs being thrown? Tyler Lockett comes to mind on something like that. Obviously, there's measurables on 40-yard dash and things like that. But I think what I'm trying to do in this video is identify, if we're looking at a Chris Conley, what the hell is he? You know, ask your friends, next time you're having a beer, go to a cocktail party in the backyard barbecue, everyone's gathering around talking fantasy, and rankings come up. And how do you rank this guy? Let's start with some basics, people. How many of your buddies know what the X, Y, and Z receivers are? For all you John Madden video gamers out there, maybe some people do. There's a lot of people that don't, man. They really don't. So let's just review a couple things, okay? We're going to take the classic X, wide receiver. Who comes to mind when you think of an X? I'd say Randy Moss. And I remember it that way because the X kind of looks like a cross, and I remember it as Randy Moss, right? So this guy cannot go in motion. He is stationary, okay? The X used to be known as the split end, right? He'd usually line up on the weak or open side of a basic formation. You're looking at a basic formation. You can only have 7 guys in the line of scrimmage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? This guy is off the line of scrimmage. He can move, okay? This is the Z. So what is the Z? The flanker, right? In this type of receiver, he's also referred to as the slot back, but in this position here, what we're noticing is Chris Conley has been working out in the OTAs under the Z. Could that be a sign? I don't know. You know, Andy Reid, he always looks for that possession guy to be the X, okay? And think X, if you're not, you know, a Randy Moss fan, think Andre Johnson. That was a great example for an X. I'd say this Y, I always like to think of like a Wes Welker type, and I think of the Y because, look at this. He can go either direction. Think of a Y like a Wes Welker, okay? And as we look at this formation, again, this is simply for demonstration purposes. This guy's known as the F, but then there's a lot of guys that you could also call him an H back, okay? Now, this guy can move in motion. Again, He cannot. So he's going to go up against a lot of tough corners. I mean, that's the roots of how the X started. And the best, most athletic player on the field is the cornerback. And this is why the X is such a tough position for wide receivers. They have to go up against these really good corners or shutdown corners, okay? And especially this year when you're talking about like a Des Bryant, look at his schedule. That may be really tough on shutdown corners because they're going to jam him a lot, at the line of scrimmage. So when we look at stuff like this, rather than those BS charts, why don't you start breaking down what you know? Okay, why don't you figure out a guy like Chris Conley? Right, we're getting information on what's going on in Kansas City. Do I think he's a breakout player? I'm not going to comment on that. Do I like Chris Conley? Hell yeah, because Macklin's gone, right? And in that offense, I think Tyreek Hill, who's going to go for more of the Z routes, right, the deeper routes. Tyreek Hill might be overblown here. People are going nuts on Twitter. I see it all the time. I see YouTube things on Tyreek Hill. So I like Chris Conley. If he's available on your wire, obviously he's probably gone by now. But at the end of the day, what you want to do is prepare for all situations. And then, when you do see certain situations, you'll know what to do. Let's not try to predict the future. Let's get rid of these silly charts like this where you start seeing things and you're like, what the hell does that mean? Total average playing time? Where'd they get those numbers? You have to be a skeptic, okay? I mean, it's a beautiful thought. Could you imagine for a second here if you actually had a guy with a stopwatch that said, Larry Fitzgerald in his illustrious career, he's 33 years old, he's got 900, average minutes of playing time. Could you imagine a guy actually like charting that like the NBA? Maybe that's coming, I don't know. But again, you got to break down stuff like this. Don't take all these charts when you see this out there on the Dynasty community or the fantasy community as scripture. It's not sound. You got to really understand what they're trying to say. And in this case, with average minutes of playing time, I've never heard of anything like that in fantasy football. So be very, very weary of something like that. And again, I go back down to my chart. Let's figure out more metrics, okay? These type of questions is what you want. These are the charts and stuff you want to look at. I remember, look, this gauntlet example in the combine, Tyler Lockett, I never saw anybody do the gauntlet better than him. It was crazy. He was so good at it, okay? I looked at his metrics. I like what I saw. And then you got to go back to the roots. Again, none of your buddies know this. If you play John Madden, you're going to know this. But a lot of people don't understand what the XYZ wide receivers are. So, again, study the chart, figure out what's going on, maybe the coaching staff. Remember, Andy Reid used to deal with Deshaun Jackson, right? So let's not forget how that works in this Z flanker sort of role that we can put out. And I hope this video has helped you. If you have any questions on this, put it in the comments. But get to know these concepts, folks. You're playing, Dynasty fantasy football or fantasy in general, and you don't even know what a basic formation is, people. It's sad to me. People don't understand. They get confused on a lot of these concepts, which I totally wholeheartedly understand. But you need to know a little bit more about the metrics rather than silly charts and graphs where everybody just wants this crutch. Everyone wants this like magic crystal ball that says, do the work for me. I just want rankings. Just give me the rankings. No one wants to do any homework, okay? And that's what really separates yourself. Figure stuff out. Do some studying on this type of charting and information. JohnnyBUpsideDownDrafting.com. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Thanks for everything. Supportive comments and likes on the video, all that stuff. UDD Works is my Twitter, and I'll see you in the next show. Thanks, guys. Later. Bye.